The chapter begins with a dream, or perhaps a memory from Suho's past. In this scene, we see a young Suho walking alongside his mother, Cha Hae-in, and his father, Sung Jin-woo. He looks up at his parents with excitement in his eyes and declares, "I'm gonna be a cop like Dad." Cha Hae-in, surprised by his sudden enthusiasm, tilts her head. But Suho isn't done yet. His voice is filled with admiration as he continues. "'Cause you look cool. Can I be one? Or an athlete like then I'll be strong like her, right? That's okay. Right, Cha Hae-in kneels down beside her son, smiling gently. She speaks in a warm yet firm voice. "Suho, and Dad decided something when you were born. It's that we won't have a say in your dreams. You can do whatever you want. Suho." But Suho hesitates for a moment, his small hands clenched into fists. "But I want to be strong and cool like and Dad." Cha Hae-in places a hand on his shoulder and looks at him with deep affection. "If that's what you want, you can do it. But I want you to make sure to ask yourself, is that what you really want? Suho." As the scene fades, Suho wakes up in the present day, deep in thought. Why did I suddenly remember those words Mom told me back then? He realizes something. Somewhere along the way, he stopped questioning himself. Instead of figuring out what he was good at or what he truly wanted, he had been blindly chasing after his father's footsteps. Suho and Yoo Jin-ho's conversation. A new scene begins. Suho is sitting down, drawing something. Yoo Jin-ho approaches and leans over his shoulder. His eyes widen. "Whoa, you're drawing ants today, too." Then, with a smirk, he adds, "You know your skills won't improve if you keep drawing the same thing, yeah?" Suho chuckles. "Haha, but if you look closely, there's a slight." Jin-ho raises an eyebrow and examines the drawing more carefully. Then, after a moment, he nods. "Right. Your drawing is certainly special. Typically, when you draw the same thing over and over, you tend to get stuck in a pattern. But it feels like you're becoming much freer the more you draw. Especially this. Can you even call that an ant at this point?" Jin-ho's words resonate with Suho. He realizes something important. The reason I obtained the shadow form change faster than my father was probably because the system matched it to my traits. He finally understands, instead of resisting his own unique powers, he should embrace them. I won't defy it any longer. His combat style is evolving. No longer restricted by a fixed form, Suho decides to fully unleash his potential, to draw out an unbound shadow. The shadows begin to shift. Suddenly, the shadows around Suho start to shift and change. Dark figures emerge, taking on various forms, each one different from the last. Baru, watching from a distance, feels something strange. His body trembles as he mutters to himself. The nearby shadow soldiers are being pulled to the young monarch. "It's getting difficult to maintain my form." Essel, standing beside him, looks concerned. "Are you? What's happening to the young monarch?" Baru takes a deep breath, his glowing eyes fixed on Suho. "Phew, I don't exactly know what happened myself, but it seems the young monarch is breaking out of his shell right now." Meanwhile, the apostle, Suho's opponent, watches the scene unfold with narrowed eyes. He wasn't expecting this. Was there latent potential within him? This sudden change in Suho's power could become a serious problem. This could become troublesome. I should quickly bring him to a near-death state and administer the star fragment into. But before he can even finish his thought, boom! The ground erupts beneath his feet. A massive shadow blade emerges from below, its dark form twisting as it slashes upward. The impact is so powerful that the apostle is launched into the air, sent flying far from where he stood. His mind races. What's this? According to my information, the abilities of a hunter do not grow. Could this be a reawakening? His confusion quickly turns to fear. The battlefield shifts. Suho stands at the center, but something is different. The shadows around him grow larger, shifting and taking monstrous shapes. His right hand is no longer solid, it has become a living shadow. Suho's thoughts race as he realizes something crucial. Is the shadow form change simply a weaponization of shadows? He thinks back to the very nature of shadows, their ability to transform and adapt. Considering the traits of shadows that allow them to transform, I should be able to apply it in various methods. Suddenly, the massive shadow behind him lunges at the apostle, aiming to crush him. But in a blur, the apostle slices through it with ease. The battle continues to intensify, and soon, a gigantic orc-like shadow soldier emerges, its massive mace raised high. With a thunderous swing, the soldier brings its weapon crashing down onto the apostle. But the apostle doesn't flinch. With a single bare hand, he stops the attack mid-air and speaks with cold confidence. "Did I not tell you? Your soldiers are no threat to me." Without hesitation, he cuts through the shadow warrior effortlessly. But then, he notices something strange. As the apostle studies Suho, he sees something completely unfamiliar, something never before witnessed. Suho's hand is engulfed in both red and black shadows, the two colors twisting together in an unnatural fusion. Suho looks at his opponent and mutters, "If this doesn't work either, then it's pretty much over." Suddenly, a system notification appears. Bond skill, Demon Strike, has been activated. Suho bursts forward at blinding speed, closing the distance in an instant. The apostle narrows his eyes, sensing the immense mana radiating from Suho's attack. That mana certainly looks dangerous, but I would never be hit by an attack so obvious. The battle intensifies as Suho and the apostle clash, exchanging devastating blows. Suho is taking heavy damage, but he refuses to stop. The apostle smirks. "You should still be able to use your authority even while missing a leg." Suho, battered and bruised, exhales sharply. Wow, so something like this is possible with the shadow form change. Huh. Then, without warning, something unexpected happens. Behind the apostle, a shadow unlike any other emerges. Unlike the usual black and white shadows, this one is a deep, ominous red. Before the apostle can react, the red shadow delivers a powerful punch to his face, sending him flying through the air. The force of the impact sends him crashing into a massive rock, shattering it upon impact. As the dust settles, the apostle slowly rises to his feet, his expression filled with shock. He mutters to himself, "Transferring your skill to a soldier, a utilization of authority that I didn't witness from the darkness." But then he pauses. His jaw won't move. His words won't come out. He finally realizes his jaw is broken from the impact. Though injured, the apostle isn't done yet. He forces his body to move, knowing he still has one last trick. I should be able to fight a bit longer if I replenish his mana by sacrificing his life force. But just as he prepares to act, something changes. His control over Lee Min-sung's body starts to weaken. The apostle's eyes widen in shock. Any more carelessness would be... Suddenly, Lee Min-sung regains control of his own body. For the first time since his possession, Min-sung's eyes are his own. He gasps for breath, looking around in confusion before shouting, "What the hell is this? Did that brat make me like this?" The apostle, now trapped within Min-sung's mind, is utterly stunned. "Lee Min-sung, did the earlier impact wake him from my domination?" Min-sung clenches his fists, finally free from the apostle's control. He smirks to himself, shaking his head. Who knew that brat could do it? Then his smirk widens into a grin. How does the mighty S-rank feel, being bested by someone lower in rank than him? At this point in the fight, something unusual happens. Lee Min-sung, who has been nothing more than a puppet under the apostle's control, suddenly starts speaking to himself. Or rather, he's talking to the apostle inside him. The apostle, growing irritated, snaps back at him. "Lee Min-sung, if you don't shut your mouth." But instead of fear, Lee Min-sung smirks and fires back. Then what? What's the worst that could happen? Death. His voice is laced with bitterness and rage. Do you think I'm afraid to die? No. What I hate is being looked down upon. I hate that my existence is unacknowledged. If I can give those who underestimated me a taste of their own medicine, I will. And then, in an act of pure defiance, Lee Min-sung does the unthinkable. With his own hands, he begins ripping off the black energy covering his chest, the apostle's influence that had been controlling him all this time. The sight is gruesome, as if he's tearing off his own skin. But through the pain, his eyes burn with determination. As he looks at Sung Soo-ho, he lets out a twisted grin and yells, "Come, you dog-shit brat. If I can't be the protagonist, then I'll faithfully act out the role assigned to me." With those words, he completes his transformation. The dark energy that once consumed him is now gone. He has fully embraced his fate. And then, with a horrifying smile, he declares, "This is my final role as a villain." But before Lee Min-sung can make another move, Soo-ho is already upon him. With a devastating punch, engulfed in shadow, he strikes Lee Min-sung with full force. The impact is so massive that everything behind him is completely obliterated. The sheer shockwave of the punch shakes the entire battlefield. And just like that, the chapter ends. What a way to end this intense battle. Lee Min-sung, a character who once stood at the top, fell to the bottom, only to embrace his final act as a villain. But what's next for Soo-ho? Has he truly won? Or is there something even greater waiting ahead? We'll find out in the next chapter. If you enjoyed this explanation, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us stay motivated to bring you more content. See you in the next video. Until then, keep leveling up.